This is First Coast Math Clinic with Lesson 10, Solving Equations with Fractions, from Unit 2, Equations and Expressions, from our Pre-Algebra and Algebra curriculum. Our goal in this video is to solve and check equations that contain fractions, and to do it, we're going to use the steps that we've been following in the last few videos, our steps to solve equations that have variables on both sides. And let's start with this equation. So we've got 1/3 x plus 1/3 equals 1/2 x minus 1/4. So we want to start by combining our like terms across the equal sign. So I'm going to combine the 1/3 x and 1/2 x. So I'm going to subtract 1/3 x and 1/3 x from both sides. All right, so we've got 1/2 minus 1/3. So our common denominators are going to be 6 and 6. So we can multiply by 3/3 and 2/2. So this is going to become 3/6 and 2/6. And when we subtract this out, we get 1/6. Actually, that should be positive, so let me get rid of that negative sign. So we get 1/6 here minus 1/4 equals 1/3. So now let's move that 1/4 to the left. So I'm going to add 1/4 and add 1/4. Just to save some room, let me get rid of this. So now I'm going to do 1/3 plus 1/4. So my common denominator is going to be 12, so I'm multiplying this by 3/3 and this by 4/4. So this is going to become 3. Actually, I got that backwards. So let's try that again. So this is going to be times 4/4, and this is times 3/3. So this is going to become 4/12 and 3/12. So when we add this up, we're going to get 7/12. So I've got 7/12 equals 1/6 x. So now I want to divide by 1/6 and divide by 1/6. So 1/6 divided by 1/6 cancels out. So I'll put my final answer here. Let's do the work over here. So I'm going to have 7/12 divided by 1/6. We know we could rewrite this using multiplication, so it's going to become 7/12 times 6/1. And let's reduce this before we even multiply, right? I've got 12 in the denominator, 6 in the numerator. I can divide both of these by 6 and 6, so that gives me 1. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So now, multiplying straight across, I just get 7/2 as my answer. I'm going to keep it an improper fraction for our check, so it's going to make our check a little bit easier, right? So x is 7/2. So now our check. So everywhere I see an x in our original equation, let's replace it with 7/2. So I'm going to get 1/3 times 7/2 plus 1/3 equals 1/2 times 7/2 minus 1/4. So we're going to get 7/6 plus 1/3 equals 7/4 minus 1/4. So on this left side, or on the right side, 7/4 minus 1/4 is going to give us 6/4. And let me do this part up here to finish this check. 7/6 plus 1/3. So we'll multiply this by 2/2 because we need common denominators. So we'll get 2/6 and add that up, and we get 9/6. So we get 9/6 on the left. So I've got 9 over 6 and 6 over 4. Well, let's see if we can factor these out a little bit and just double check and make sure that these are equal to each other. Well, 9 over 6, what can I factor out? I can factor out a 3 and a 3. So 3 times 3 is 6. 3 times 2. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 2 is 6. And 6 over 4. What can I factor out for 6 and 4? I could factor out 2. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. So let's cancel out what we have, or divide out what we have in our numerator. So I'll divide out the 3 and the 3, 2 and the 2, and I'm left with 3 over 2 and 3 over 2. So my fraction checks, my answer checks. I get 3 over 2 equals 3 over 2. Basically, I just did this last step and reduced to make sure that the left side and the right side are equal to each other. And our answer here is 7 over 2 equals x. Okay? Let's do a couple more examples involving fractions with our equations. All right, so number 2 is negative 3/4 x plus 5/6 equals negative 7/12 x. And we're going to solve this one a little bit differently. So let's say that we've got these denominators 4, 6, and 12. And we may notice that they're all divisible by the same value. They're all divisible by 4 or 2. So is there a way that we can maybe get rid of these denominators, get rid of the fractions, and make this equation a little bit easier to solve? So we're going to do that. And to do that, we've got to find the least common multiple for our denominators. And I made another video on finding the least common multiple. There's a link for that video coming up if you want to check that out. But let's find the least common multiple for our values 4, 6, and 12 to start. I'll put our values off to the side. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And our multiples for 4 are going to be 4, 8, 12, and 16. Multiples for 6 are going to be 6, 12, 18, 24. Multiples for 12 are going to be 12, 24, 36, and 48. Well, what's the smallest number they have in common? That's going to be 12. All right, so our LCM, our least common multiple, is 12. So what we have to do is multiply the left and the right side of this equation by 12, and it'll cancel out that denominator. So let's take, let's say, for example, we've got that 5/6. If I multiply that by 12, all right, I put that 12 over 1. 5 times 12 is going to give me 60. 6 times 1 is 6, and I get 10 back, right? So get rid of the fraction. So that's what we're going to do to get rid of our fractions and make this equation a little bit easier to solve. So let's multiply the left side by 12 and the right side by 12. So I'm going to have 12 times negative 3/4 x plus 12 times 5/6 x, or 5/6, excuse me, equals, and then we just got negative 7/12 x times 12. Then multiplying this out, 12 times negative 3/4 x is going to give me negative 36/4 x, which is going to give me negative 9x. 12 times 5/6, or I put that over 1. This is going to give me 66, which is just 10. And on the right side, this is going to give me, remember, our 12 and 12 cancel out here. So I'm just going to be left with negative 7x, or negative 7x. All right, now we could solve this equation. So this equation looks a lot easier to work with than the original one that we had here. So now let's solve this. I'm going to add 9x and 9x to both sides. 9x cancels out. I get 10 equals negative 7x plus 9x is 2x, and then divide by, getting one step ahead of myself, divide by 2 and 2, and we get x is equal to 5. All right, so let's do our check now. So our check, let's take our original equation, and wherever we see an x, let's put in a 5. So negative 3/4 times 5 gives me negative 15/4 plus 5/6 equals negative 35/12. So let's add up our negative 15/4 and 5/6. So I can do that up here. So our common denominator here should be 12. So we've got to multiply this by 2 over 2. So this becomes 10. And we've got to multiply this by 3. So it's going to become negative 45. And we're going to get negative 45 plus negative 45/12 plus 10/12, and we get negative 35/12. So we get the same thing on that left side. Negative 35/12 equals negative 35/12. And again, all this is a check, just making sure the left side and the right side are equal. And my answer here is x equals 5. All right, let's do one more example where we find the least common multiple and use that to solve our fractional equation. At number 3, we've got negative 3/5 x minus 1/15 equals negative 7/10 x plus 1/5. So let's find our least common multiple for 5, 15, and 10, and use that to see if we can get rid of these fractions. So we've got 5, 10, and 15. Our multiples for 5 are going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. Multiples for 10 are going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Multiples for 15 are going to be 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, and 90. And what's the smallest number they have in common? That looks like it's going to be 30. All right, so 30 is going to be our LCM, our least common multiple. Our least common multiple is going to be 30. So let's multiply the left side and the right side by 30 to get rid of our fraction. So we can do 30 times negative 3/5 x minus 1/15 times 30 equals 30 times negative 7/10 x plus 30 times 1/5. So if you multiply this straight across, 30 over 1 times negative 3/5, we're going to get negative 90/5 x. And then same thing here, negative, put the 30 over 1, negative 1/15 times 30 is going to give us negative 30 over 15. I'm just going to multiply everything out first, and then I'll reduce it. And then here, put 30 over 1. So 30 times negative 7, we're going to get negative 210 over 10x. And then 30 over 1 plus 30 over 5. And now let's reduce this. So we're going to get negative 18x minus 2 equals negative 21x plus 6. So now let's combine our like terms. Again, this equation now looks a lot easier than the previous equation with all of our fractions. So I'm going to start by adding 18x and adding 18x to both sides. The 18x cancels out. And just to save some room, I'm going to subtract 6 and subtract 6 from both sides. So negative 2 minus 6 gives me negative 8. Negative 21x plus 18x is going to give me negative 3x. And the last step, let's divide by negative 3 and negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. So we're going to get x equals just 8 over 3 as our answer. All right. So 8 over 3 should be our answer. Let's check this. I'm going to erase this here and do our check. So taking our original equation, negative 3/5, substitute in our 8 over 3 minus 1/15 equals negative 7/10 times 8 over 3 plus 1/5. So let's simplify. To make this a little bit easier, we can divide out 3 and 3 in the numerator and denominator. So we can divide this out to 1 and 1. And then when I multiply, we're going to get negative 8/5 minus 1/15. And then on the right side, we're going to get negative 56/30 plus 1/5. So let's find our common denominators now. I've got to multiply this fraction here by 3 over 3 to get a common denominator of 15. So I'm going to get negative 24/15 minus 1/15. So we get negative 25/15. And I need to multiply this fraction here by 6 to get a common denominator of 30. So multiply times 6 over 6. So I'm going to get negative 56/30 plus 6/30. So we're going to get negative 50/30. Okay. And let's just simplify our left and right side to make sure that these fractions are equal. So I'm going to factor out a 5. So maybe 25 over 15, that's equal to like 5 times 5 and 5 times 3. So I'll keep the negative here so we keep that negative sign. So 5 times negative 5. Let me write that a little bit neater. So 5 times negative 5 over 5 times 3. And on the right side, get factor out a 10 and a 10. So this is going to be 10 times negative 5, 10 times 3. All right, so now when we simplify this, we can divide out the 5 and the 5, and the 10 and the 10. And we've got the same value on the left and the right side. Here, negative 5 over 3, negative 5 over 3. So our answer checks. Remember, in our check, we want to make sure the left side and the right side are equal. We have the same thing on the left and the right side, negative 5 over 3, negative 5 over 3. So our answer is going to be that 8 over 3. Or if you divide this out, this is going to be 2 and 2/3. Okay. So this was lesson 10, solving equations with fractions from our equations and expressions unit. If you like this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. First Coast Math Clinic.